What up? It's your girl Motivation with V. Back at it again. This is Get Real with V, where we're going to get real, we're going to get raw, and we're going to get down to the truth. And today we have special guests. I'm so excited to have my BFF and her girlfriend, who I've known for years, have been in a relationship together for 10 years and counting. And I'm so excited because they're going to share their journey with you and just everything that they've gone through, the ups, the downs, the struggles, the challenges, the good times. And I hope that you get something from this. I'm so grateful to have both of you on here to share your story, because not everyone that is listening in knows you both, nor do they know what you've gone through and had to endure as a couple. I do, because I've been there every step of the way. From the last episode, I talked about toxic cycles, how I was the toxic one, and having to learn that, dissect that so I can be a better person. And personally, I have seen Jasmine and Sofia transform before my eyes these past couple of years, and I'm so proud of them. But I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So the mic is all yours.
My name is Jasmine. Everyone knows me by J Coca, JP. I think that was the original one. Born and raised in San Francisco in the Mission District. Don't live there anymore, but yeah, that is just a little bit about me.
Hi, everybody. My name's Sophia, and I have no voice at the moment. It's a little raspy, just little disclaimer. But I'm also born and raised in the city. And I grew up like Outer Mission area. I have 7 brothers and sisters. Let's start with that. I have a huge ass Mexican family. Both of my parents are from Mexico. That matters. That's context. That matters.
That's true. We'll get into it.
We'll get into it.
Really? You gonna make fun of me?
Sorry.
On live TV?
I know, sorry, Mama.
She's not sorry. That's J Coca for you, right? We've been dealing with this for a long time. Send help. No. Okay, so first question, y'all. Can you take us back to the beginning? What was your relationship like in the earlier days?
So, the earlier days,
When did we meet?
I was actually talking to Sophia. I was talking to you about this yesterday, but I want to say that for me, the earlier days, for me, it was very innocent, adventurous, carefree, fun, exciting, because I think for me, I didn't know how far we were actually going to take the relationship. So I kind of just went with the, hey, like, let's have fun while we're here mentality. Yeah, I was just having a lot of fun. I think that's what it was, because I didn't think it was going to last.
Damn.
And not in the bad way.
No, it's true though.
Not in the
I
bad
don't think
way.
we both did.
I didn't mean it like, oh, like if we weren't out. It was like, I just didn't know, because I met you when I was 24 years old.
And I was 22.
Turning 23. I will say this. I met Sophia when I just had gotten out of a relationship. So I was actually going through very short marriage. So I was actually going through a divorce, and it was really quick, but the process felt so long that when I met her, I was still going through a lot of regrets and emotions because of the past relationship. But not just that, I was already coming from bad relationship after bad relationship after bad relationship. And I don't want to say it was all my fault, but I will say that I played a really huge part in why it was a bad relationship. So I think meeting Sophia, for me, it was, first of all, like, I never thought I would get Sophia, because look at her, like, she's fucking beautiful. She's gorgeous, right? Everyone was like, what? So I really was playing this like, okay, let's see, will she give me the time of day? And if she does, I want to have fun, and I want to make it the best experience for Sophia, because I thought she was going to be just another girl in my life that wasn't going to be in my life anymore.
Came in and out.
So I was expecting for just the worst, but I wanted to have fun. I wanted to enjoy the moment with her. And I think that's the reason why I'm saying I didn't think it was going to last. I really felt it was just exciting, fun. It was a good time.
Still is.
We had fun.
Yeah, to like give even more context too. When I met Jasmine, I was not trying to get into any relationship with her. I wasn't looking for anything. No, that's not true. Like, I was definitely in a place in my life where I knew, like, I did want love. I did want to settle down, but I just didn't expect it to be
Just not with me.
I didn't think it was going to be Jasmine, let's be honest. And again, I literally look at myself like a baby. I was such a baby back then. And so this is 2015. Like, I was living at home with my parents and we were both living at home, right? So when we were in an official relationship, which happened like after 3 solid months of you pursuing me and me being like, I don't know, like, I don't know, but I would like hit you up every single day because I wanted to still see you every day. I want to hang out every single day. And I was still just like, but I don't know, like, I don't think this is what I want. Then we started dating, and this is like me living at home and you living at home. And our relationship was constantly outside, hooking up in the car 24/7 because we had nowhere to go. Like, I was.
Can you keep that out?
No, like, it's true. I was keeping things a secret from my parents for a solid year because I knew the second that my parents found out, I was going to get kicked out of my house. So that changed a lot when that happened, but that was a year later. So that whole first year, we were like you said, we were having a lot of fun. Like, there was a lot of firsts for me of experiencing a million different dynamics in a relationship with you. So it was wild. Honestly, the first year was just wild. And I don't think either of us saw us lasting, but I fell so fucking hard in love with you. You know, when you're young and in love and you're like, this is going to last forever. Like, yeah. I would have married this girl. And I was already saying that. We were already saying that to each other in the beginning. And that was while we were still living at home. So then things happened. My parents found out. And I was in denial in a million ways, but like, I denied it for so long when I finally was like, fuck, like, I can't keep hiding this anymore. And my parents are very traditional, like Mexican. We were raised Catholic as hell. I was like at church 3 days a week growing up. Like, if I lived in my parents' house, like, I had to be at church. It was no ifs, ands, or buts. So I saw it coming, and then we moved in together, like, as soon as that happened. And that was my choice. I didn't think, I mean, I also wouldn't have had anywhere to go. There's no way I would have survived living in the city, paying rent. And you were like, fuck it, let's just do this together. We'll help each other out. So that happened after 1 year.
Yeah, like, I felt like that was when things started to get fucking real.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, we were just like messing around, dating. I knew I really, really, really liked you. And obviously, like, I fell for you. And then that's when I was like, are we going to actually do this or what, you know? And then, yeah, we ended up moving in together, and then things got real quick.
And mind you that I was there for this when this was happening. So I know for sure, like, they went through it. But look at where they're at. I have 2 things that I caught on to. One question's for you and one is for you. The first one, Jasmine. So you mentioned when you met Sophia, you had just gotten out of a marriage. So looking back now, do you feel like you gave yourself enough time to heal before getting into a serious relationship with Sophia? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So looking back now, it does look like I didn't give myself enough time to actually heal and work on myself. But in all reality, and I'm not trying to undermine what I had with the other person, but I was completely checked out, very early on, I think, in that relationship. And I respect the girl, and I have a lot of love for that girl, and I hope that she's doing very, very, very well. I think that we both were not right for each other. At that point, I think we both kind of like, I think we were both wanting the same things, but we were just the wrong people for each other. I think we moved a little too fast. Now looking back at that relationship, I was already checked out. The divorce definitely needed to happen immediately. And I felt like I was already working on myself, though, like coming out of that relationship. So when I met Sophia, I was already at a point where I was like, oh, fresh start. But could I have given myself more time? Okay, in short, yes, I could have given myself more time. But like I said, I was already checked out and way before the divorce happened. So I feel like I was already slowly working on myself in different ways. I was working out. I was focused on work. I was focused on just being around good people, positive people. That's what led me to meet Sophia. I think I was doing the right things. And I do believe that although I feel like karma hit me in the last relationship, I also feel like I somewhat got good karma when I started to realize, like, okay, I gotta get my shit together. So when I met Sophia, that's what I was already doing.
Nice. I love that. Real quick, though, for those that are watching, because I know that there's people out there that are probably in a relationship that is toxic, and some of the people in those relationships aren't aware of their behavior, aren't aware of the way they were raised, and aren't aware of just the way they're operating in that relationship, right? And it has a lot to do with not giving yourself that time to heal alone, right? So I love that for you, you did give yourself some time within like the divorce, but also you could have probably given yourself a little more time by yourself, and that you probably would have been able to show up even better, right?
Absolutely. 100%. I definitely do not advise anyone that is getting out of a relationship or a marriage to, the first thing they do is seek a new companionship, because that's not going to go well. Best thing to do is give yourself as much time as you can. Even if somebody comes up and, they seem great and amazing. If you can, and if you know, and you have that discipline, I think it's 100% worth it just to wait.
But obviously in this scenario, something beautiful came out of it.
Yeah. And like I said, that's the thing too. I like, just going back to what we were saying earlier, Sophia wasn't on my bingo card to get any serious relationship with her. So when I met her, it was more of like, hey, she's amazing. She's great. We have chemistry as friends. And it really started to obviously quickly sort of, it started to evolve. But it was natural. Like, I know I did the pursuing, but at the same time, like, everything was natural. It felt just like we were having a lot of fun. So whether or not we were going to last, the point wasn't to try and get into a serious relationship. It was to just have fun and to discover that part that we were like bringing out of each other, which was like this like little kid, like this big crush, and we're exploring that. And so it was different. I wasn't on the hunt to find a new partner. I didn't want that. I didn't want a new partner. I just wanted to have fun.
I just want to ask Sophia something real quick.
Go for it.
I know you mentioned when you had first met Jasmine, it felt nice and you were trying to figure out what it was, right? What this could be. And you couldn't even come out to your parents for a whole year. Tell us a little bit about how it was for you as someone who was heterosexual. What was it like for you during that time when you were trying to figure out your sexuality, having to come out to your Mexican parents who are religious?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there was a lot of, I grew up thinking one way only, and I was taught one way only of man marries woman. And honestly, the Church of Munch was like extremely homophobic, is the truth. So like that was programmed in me since literally I was a child, right? So it wasn't something that I was even trying to explore or felt like that was an option almost. And meeting Jasmine, I was very confused as to what the fuck I was feeling. I was like, what is this? I got butterflies. I really enjoy this girl's company. She keeps on saying she wants to take me on a date. And I'm like, listen, like, I like you as a friend. No. You're like, just give me one chance, just one date, like a real date where Veto's not present, first of all. So Jasmine kept always trying to bring you along to every single time we would hang out. She was like trying to hang out with me. And I was like, sure, like, let's hang out. Let's do different things. And you were always there because she was, I don't know, partly nervous. And they didn't want to just be alone with me either. But I guess it also made things more uncomfortable. Point is, the experiences that I was having during the whole time of meeting Jasmine, again, I had been single for a long time also at that point. And I knew that I wanted love and I wanted something serious. I think I was just in that mindset. But did I think that was going to be Jasmine? Absolutely not. I was like, okay, fine. Like, let me give this a try. I'm feeling a lot of things that I was very, very confused about. But I was just fighting it for a very long time. In my mind, I was like, there's like, no, like, I can't like her as a girl. Like, I can't like her. There's no way. This is like actually real. Until I just kind of reached a point where I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm not a child living off of everything I've been taught my whole life. Plus, this is something that I think I need to explore. I had to. So the challenge and the struggle was knowing what that meant for me and my family dynamics and the relationship with my parents. Who they are as people has always been complicated, is the truth. It's not easy. It was never easy. It was never perfect, but we're really close. Family to me has always been everything. The dynamics of a family has always been really important to me. And like the togetherness that we always grew up having. There's a lot of togetherness. What that meant for me to tell my parents that I am dating a woman and that I am in love with a woman, that I see myself really like wanting to be with her, was definitely the scariest thing I had ever done. Like, I was shitting bricks the day that they were like, Sophia, come upstairs. We need to talk to you. I go up to their bedroom. They close the door. We're sitting there and they're like, okay, listen, we already know. Can you just say it? Just fucking say it.
Parents are,
yes.
they already know. Parents always know.
Like, I already lied to them like several times. And they were just like, listen, can you just confirm it already? And I was like, honestly, I was sitting there for an hour crying before I even was able to say the word, okay, yes, you're right. Like, Jasmine is not just my friend, she's my girlfriend. And before I even did that, I ran downstairs. I was like to my brother and my sister, I was like, you guys, I'm about to fucking tell them. And I was crying and I was like nervous. I'm like, I'm so scared. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I'm about to tell them, like, it's finally happening. And yeah, so they were definitely like eavesdropping downstairs. So again, it was extremely scary. And because what happened after that, the follow-up question for them was like, okay, now what I want to know is, do you want help? Like, we want to help you, Mija. So you have options. First, then I told them the whole story as to how it happened. They totally were like, she's the one that turned you and blah, blah, blah. Like, they totally blamed her, thought that like this would never have happened if I didn't meet Jasmine, and she probably like forced me into some sort of like relationship. So I clarified the whole story. I was like, no, yeah, she pursued me. I said no for 3 months. And then after that, I couldn't leave her alone. And she kept trying to give me the space to not be in a relationship. She was like, listen, I will respect that we're just friends. Let me just give you that space so that I can see you as a friend. And I couldn't do that. I was like, no, like, I really fucking like you and I'm not going to do that.
So sorry to interrupt you, but I have a quick question. And I'm curious because you said you were raised in a religious home and you were in this box where you truly believed the beliefs that were put onto you growing up, right? So I'm curious because you mentioned your parents offered help, right? Yeah. Did a part of you feel like maybe they were right and maybe Satan was trying to turn you out? Because you had this mentality already. Like, do you feel like for a moment you were like, oh shit, maybe the devil's coming after me?
Absolutely not. No. I really didn't. So when I say that this is just what my environment growing up has been my entire life, I also mean that in the sense of like, that's my home. And this is like at home what it was like. And I also like grew up in the city and like, no, like I never thought like being gay was a bad thing. And I never truly believed that it was bad or wrong in any sense because like surrounded by.
Yeah, you were more open-minded.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I just never thought that was real for me. And because I never would have allowed myself to explore, like I wouldn't have gone there because of the beliefs.
The reason why I bring it up is because I know that there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with their sexuality and maybe they were raised a certain way to believe like being gay is bad, right?
Yeah.
And I get it. That's how you were raised. Your parents taught you that. So you take that on and it's engraved in you where you truly believe that. And so that's why I was curious to see if maybe like, you saw it that way, but you were obviously surrounded by people and you're in California, right? So you're exposed to the LGBT community.
Yeah. And so when my parents asked me that, they were like, do you need help? I was like, absolutely not. There is nothing wrong with me. I was very firm and I was very adamant to them. Their option to me was an ultimatum. I was like, oh God, it's happening. They're about to kick me out. So they said, you can leave Jasmine and still live here, or you can stay with her and you have to leave this house But of course, we would like for you to stay here because we can help you. Like we can get you to meet with the priest and like you'll do these, I don't know what the hell that would have been.
That's crazy.
They didn't explain specifically what the hell this help looked like.
Yeah.
But I immediately shut that down and I said, I don't need help. There is nothing wrong with me. I am not leaving, Jasmine. I understand that you're making me leave and I'll just I'm going to take chances. It was an easy decision for me. I didn't even have to think twice about it. It was more just, I wasn't like financially ready to leave the house, but whatever.
Yeah.
So that's when I went to her that day. And then she was just like, all right, let's figure this out. Like, we'll move in together, I guess, so we can keep living in the city.
Y'all took a really big leap together. So that leads me to my next question. You guys moved in together fairly quickly. So I'm curious to hear from each of your perspective, how it was moving in together within the first year. How was it? How did you deal with it? Were there any challenges? What did you overcome?
Yeah, so she got kicked out. We moved in pretty quick. I will say she's not the first girl that I've moved in with. So I've already experienced living with a partner, but it was the first time where it was kind of like a very, critical situation where she's getting kicked out. So, my first thought was, oh my God, I'm not going to have her sleep in the car. Like that's not what's going to happen. Around that time, I made a decision that I needed to just kind of think very quickly on my feet, found an opportunity where we could move in together and I would just have to change my career. And when that happened, I felt it was a mix of emotions of being nervous and excited at the same time because I wanted to be with her. I wanted her to be with me. And so I think at the same time, like, although it did feel really fast, at the same time, I kind of felt like, fuck it. Like, let's do it. I'm going to be ready. It's not that I was ready. I'm going to be ready.
We're going to make it.
We're going to make it work. Yeah. So I think that's when shit got real, obviously. We got to definitely know each other more. And I think at the same time, it was a beautiful situation where we actually get to be with each other now every day. But also at the same time, I felt like it was like survival. Like it was our way. We needed to survive this together, So it was definitely challenging in terms of us figuring out life now together every day, day and night, and figuring out our lives. Like, okay, how do we want to move forward now that we are living together? Like, how does the future really look like now, right? So that was my take on it in the beginning. It was like I was busy working, and still figuring out our dynamic as now living together.
Yeah, it felt like an adventure at first when we were making it happen because we had to find a place, which wasn't an ideal living situation. Like her first home wasn't even a home. It wasn't even really an apartment. We lived in an office. It was like an office space that we converted into a home. And there was no sink, no bathroom, no bedroom in there. That was outside in a common area in this building that Jasmine basically ran and like managed. And that's how we made our first home. Mm-hmm. It was in the ghetto too. Like it was rough. And then we had to find furniture. Like, where are we going to get all this stuff? So we would let down a Let Go, Offer Up, all the apps where people sell their stuff. So we started driving out to everybody's homes, like picking up a couch, picking up a used coffee table, picking up whatever the hell we needed, right? And just me and her by ourselves, like lugging shit downstairs, and we lived on a hill too. And like in and out of that place. And so it was like this adventure. I remember it was like me and you against the world, babe. Like, we got this. Like, it felt like it was us against the world and we're the world against us in that moment. Again, we're young. We're like, whatever, we're going to do whatever we can to make this work. So it was fun building a little home together. It was fun. Our living situation was presented us with a lot of challenges, but that wasn't the biggest struggle. I think the hard part about us living together really quickly in our relationship, not having, developed a very strong foundation for our relationship yet, and communication style, and just understanding, who we are as individuals and as a couple to each other, again, because we didn't realize how serious things were going to get. It kind of felt like we molded our lives together too much, where I will say for myself, I think we lost our individuality almost in that sense, where we were like tied to each other 24/7. Like everything we did was now together. Everywhere we went, the people we hung out with, we didn't really know how to be just alone now. Not that we didn't know how to, but the dynamic became a little unhealthy. Not a little, it got kind of really unhealthy where we were one and we were one all the time. And that led to a lot of arguing, a lot of fights, a lot of disagreements, a lot of first times being exposed to situations that we just didn't know how to manage. And we were just so blind and in love, but also didn't acknowledge or really truly see the bad habits that we were creating among each other and with ourselves, where the highs were so high and the amazing parts of a relationship were everything that like anybody could want, but the lows were really, 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 really low. And when we would fight and we would argue, like, where would we go? There was nowhere to fucking go. We lived in a box, literally. Like, we'd fight, I would leave, I'd sit in my car, you know, and I would be alone, or vice versa. She'd like walk out and we'd just be like outside on the street and just, like gave each other space. I think we just didn't have a good foundation for a healthy relationship to begin with.
I think there was also no boundaries because we were just always together. I think it was just like our safe, like at the same time we felt safe being with each other, but we also didn't know how to set boundaries within our relationship to say, hey, we shouldn't be always together at all these different occasions. Like it's okay for us to be doing solo stuff. And it took a while, but eventually we did get there. But yeah, in the beginning, it was very unhealthy. We were always together.
You brought up two things that I want to point out. The first one is losing your individuality. And I want to point this out because I feel like a lot of couples do this. I did this all the time, especially with my girlfriends, because there's something about women. We become one. But what I'm learning, especially as a future therapist, is the importance of keeping your individuality. It is okay for you and your partner to be one, but to also keep that individuality and do the things that you were originally doing before you met them. Because if you really think about it, they fell in love with that version of you. So I'm glad that you brought that up because I see you now and you have a lot of individuality now. Jasmine, she does a lot on her own now, which is awesome. And so does Sophia. She's a businesswoman. She's literally busy 24/7.
Yeah.
But they still come together at the end of the day. So I think that's beautiful. And I want you guys to share that part of your journey too.
Yeah.
The second thing that I want to talk about too is the boundaries part, because I think growing up in a Latin household, it's really hard to set boundaries because growing up, we couldn't really do that. We couldn't voice ourselves. And so when you're in a relationship, I feel like we don't want to hurt each other's feelings. So we don't say the truth. We don't say what we're feeling because we don't want to hurt the other person.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, it's not what you say.
It's how you say it.
It's how you say it.
Yeah.
It's so important in a healthy relationship to say what you need, what you want. And of course, in a respectful tone, in a nice tone, because it's vital.
Yeah.
It's vital to a relationship. If you don't tell your partner what you want, what you need, how will they know? They're not psychics. They can't read your mind. So I like that you brought up the boundary part too.
So touching on the individuality part, I will say that I think like even meeting Sophia, I've always kept things that make me feel good or make me feel great, like things that I enjoy doing. I think like me moving in with her and her moving with me, like even then, like I was still doing my stuff. Like I would still be like, I want to do things like explore, right? So like I remember still like looking into different stuff to, you know, get myself into, whether it was like different groups, like in meetups. I wasn't like, as actively as I am like maybe like today, you know, but it's always been off and on. But I never was afraid to tell Sophia like, hey, like I want to do this. So either you can come with me or, you know, you don't want to, but like, you know, and like I was lucky enough that Sophia in the beginning, like she'd come with me to a lot of like classical musical stuff. Because I always wanted to enjoyed watching that, enjoyed listening to that. And touching on the boundary stuff, I will say that in the beginning. So boundaries to me is something that I'm learning and understanding just as of last year. Like, let's be real. Like, as of last year, I can say that I genuinely learned what the fuck boundaries was and how important it was. So with Sophia, I had a sit down with her and I kept like real. I said, Sophia, like, I'm at a point in my life now where if I don't want to be somewhere that, you know, maybe we're both invited to, then I don't want to be there. Like, it's okay if I'm not there or I'm not at all these different events. I'm starting to now become more vocal about what I feel in that moment good for me and what's not good for me. I just think that, like, I was always afraid to hurt her feelings. I was always afraid to say no to her. And I think now, as we're doing therapy, shout out, I'm not going to say her name. I think now I'm just starting to become more comfortable with myself to be able to just calmly say it to her. And like you say, the delivery has to be good for me to just be able to express to her, like, hey, like, I'm feeling this way and I would just rather not. That's it, you know? So I think boundaries was something that did not come, like, you know, very quickly enough in a relationship. It didn't come like super fast. It was just something that happened little by little through a lot of unfortunate arguing. As we're getting older, we're getting comfortable just kind of telling each other, like, I mean, at least I am. I'm getting really comfortable telling someone if, you know, I need boundaries. We didn't have any boundaries.
We had none. So
I don't even think I knew how to spell boundaries in the beginning.
This is what happened with me. I, not even consciously and knowingly, kind of going off what you said about, like, you, at least in my home, or like growing up in a Hispanic household, like, I never really could speak up or go against whatever my parents would say, or, you know, didn't want to like push back too much. We weren't allowed to really push back because it's whatever they say goes, right? And I was used to that. What happened when we moved in together? So going back to that, when we moved in together, not knowingly, I made our life together my world. I made Jasmine my world. I made making this work my world, my number one priority. All I gave my energy to. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I didn't realize that, like, if I, like, it became my priority in the sense of, like, well, now this is hard, right? Now my parents know. Now it's a known thing that, like, she was not welcome at my parents' house. Like, she was not even allowed to step foot in there.
And I'm still not.
And that's never going to change, is the truth. Like, there's levels to things that have changed for sure. But now it's like what I was trying to manage was my family, my parents, like, all these situations, birthdays, parties, events, and now being with a partner that was not accepted. And I'm saying by my parents only, because that was not the case with my siblings. I have 7 brothers and sisters. They came up to every single one of them individually, and I had received, like, nothing but love and support and acceptance in every way from the beginning. And Jasmine was very much loved and accepted and supported in every way, also from the beginning. But except for when my sister was like, "Isn't she a player?"
Oh my God, I remember.
I don't know, Sophia, is that a good idea? Hey, she was like, "But are you sure about this, Sarah? I mean, Sophia." But okay, aside from that,
She's changed.
So,
all right, y'all. She's changed. But we'll get to that part.
I'm gonna readjust my body.
You're good.
Okay, so trying to figure out how to balance that, like, I did not know how to. And I think I just, like, really let myself go, in the sense I allowed Jasmine to rule everything, in that sense, where if she's not welcome, fine, I'm not going. Oh, if she's not allowed, then fuck that. Like, I'm not gonna participate because I don't stand by that. Okay, yes.
I just want to point out that that's, like, not a bad thing, because you stood your ground for her, because you respected and loved her so much that you were like, okay, my family doesn't accept her, so I'm not going to show up until she's accepted. I will start showing up.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell you, like,
Oh yeah,
it was not a bad thing at all.
I will say too, like, I think during that time where I wasn't allowed, right? I wasn't allowed at the house, whether if it was Christmas at her parents' house, like Thanksgiving, someone's birthday, and the whole family's there. I wasn't allowed to set foot in that house, and it was made very clear. So basically, yeah, that period of time where I was not allowed in the house and I was completely thrown off by just being told that I wasn't allowed to be there because it is a sin that I am with Sophia. It just angered me because I really felt like it was a personal attack towards me as a person, because everyone else, well, her siblings were allowed to bring their significant others. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening that is a sin there too. So if we are going to go off of the Bible, the book, then I thought that they weren't being fair and they should be fair. But looking back at that, I know I wasn't helping the situation out. I know that I was throwing more gasoline to the fire because I was angry. And looking back, like that was where I was at. My reality, the lenses that I was seeing the world at the time just was really fucked up. That was my reality. That was my truth. And I could have handled the situation a lot better. I feel like adding that stress to Sophia, that wasn't fair because I was coming from a place of just a lot of anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Process that.
I was really, really, really just going through the motions of our relationship, like us being able to have really like a strong foundation. And I didn't realize that I was burning the foundation by being really angry the way that I was, because I was constantly always just blaming the world and blaming your parents and blaming everyone. But so I was really coming from a place of just feeling lost and alone. So I think that looking back, like I could have handled the situation a lot better, but I just didn't realize that I was just fighting so hard to be a part of something that I never, ever had a chance of having a place in. And I really just,
To begin with, yeah.
yeah. And I thought that there was somewhat of hope at that time, but it was like throwing rocks at the biggest mountain, thinking that that was going to make a difference. And it didn't. You can't. I learned I learned the hard way that you cannot move mountains alone. But I'm in a better place now. And I think that like just thinking about the place that I was at, it was sad. It was sad that like
When you think about it now,
I caused more damage than could by behaving the way that I did. And I am embarrassed. I'm completely 100% embarrassed looking back at my behavior and like the way that I somewhat also felt entitled. And I think that it was just all through wanting and seeking validation from people that I did not need it from. But at the end of the day, like, it is beautiful for me to see that I don't think that way and I don't feel that way anymore. But I had to go through that for a reason. And I do believe it's made me a lot stronger now. So if there's anyone at all that is probably watching this and they're like, fuck, like I'm going through the same thing. Like my partner's parents, they don't accept me. And I'm just praying and hoping for the day that they do. But I don't want to say like, don't hold your breath. But I will say that you can't live your life waiting for something to happen. You got to live your life regardless. It might not ever happen. They might never accept you, and and that's okay. And I think that once you get to that point of understanding that the only validation you need for yourself and for the person that you're with is your own validation. And you know what? There's a lot of straight heterosexual couples that are also going through the same thing where the parents just will never accept them. And it's like, it's really a choice. And you can either choose every day to look at life so unfair and be angry at the fact that your significant other's parents, they don't like you. They hate you maybe. They don't want nothing to do with you for whatever reason. You can choose to literally be upset about that, or you can choose to say, well, they don't like me and that's okay, because truly you're not living your life for them. You got to live your life for you and for the people that do love you and accept you. And that I had to learn a little later in life, but I'm glad that I learned it eventually.
A couple of things that I want to say. First, I want to say thank you for being vulnerable and allowing yourself to cry, because it's not easy to do that, especially when you're holding on to anger or just regret or sadness, right? So I appreciate you allowing yourself to be in this process and just let it out. But I just want you to know that, and this is just my perspective, I don't think her parents don't love you. And this is just the way I think, because I like to look at everything from different perspectives and angles. And knowing and hearing how Sophia was raised, her parents were very religious, and it was something that was instilled in them too. And I just feel they're so stuck in their ways in thinking that being gay is bad, right? And I don't think that's ever going to change for them. For a lot of our Latino parents, they're stuck in their ways. They have their own mentality. And I've had to also be okay with that myself, with my own family. And this is just for you, so you know that it has nothing to do with you. You're an amazing person. Yeah. Everyone loves being around Jay Coca. Me and Sophia can attest to that. That's definitely true. Understand your pain and the sadness and where it comes from, because I've known you for years now and I understand it. But I just want you to know I don't think it has anything to do with who you are as a person. I want you to hold that and take that with you. Yeah. And I'm sure you've already gone through this healing journey, so you process that.
And I'm still going through it, because healing is not linear. It's a long journey.
And now my question is, Sophia, tell me about your experience of what she was saying. Tell me your side of it.
It felt that whole time like I was in the middle. Like I was trying to hold on so tight to this idea of this togetherness of my family, of always being present at everything. I fought for their acceptance for 8 years straight, and on in every occasion that I could to. But I wanted that, and I wanted to be happy, and I wanted Jasmine to be happy. And for me, I didn't know what is a normal reaction to rejection. I didn't know what was a good reaction, a bad reaction. I just wouldn't have known how that would have affected Jasmine. But I know where Jasmine comes from. I know her upbringing, I know her whole story. I know everything about Jasmine. So when she came at these situations with anger, and we talked about this a lot in therapy, but she didn't know that she was dealing with it in an unhelpful way. And I also didn't know that wasn't normal. To me, I was like, well, fuck, this just sucks for all of us. There was a part of my heart that was my heart was really broken all the time, because I really wanted still to be at my parents' house during the holidays. During Christmas, during Thanksgiving used to be my favorite time that we were always together. And I wasn't ready to let go of that. But then at home, I had a very, very angry and upset and hurt and really just deeply sad girlfriend. That if I had abandoned her, because she didn't have a family to go to separately. Also, I was now her world. And I felt like I was abandoning her or letting her down if I also did that. And I also wanted to fight for what I felt was right at that moment too, where I wanted to stand firm and this is wrong and this is fucked up. So no, I will not be there. But I wanted to be, but I didn't. But I did, but I didn't. It was honestly a lot of confusing emotions this is honestly over several years, not just during the first year, during several years of a relationship. And I think that I just wanted to support her. And at the same time, though, I think I did very much ignore my own desires, because I'd let it be blinded by everybody else's expectations from me, from my family, and from Jasmine. And I didn't think about myself, really. I'm always the first one to put myself to the side. And that's normal. In our culture, we will put everybody else before ourselves. That's still who I am, is the truth. I will put other people before me because I want to give, I want to support, I want to help, but I wasn't doing it in a healthy way at that time. So my experience was, honestly, I was just very confused. and I didn't know what was the right thing to do. I didn't know what I should do. I didn't want to come off as a bad sister, as a bad daughter, as a bad anything, but I also didn't want to be a bad partner. And now when we talk about it in therapy, she knows she was putting a lot on me to seek that validation that she only could have given herself. She knows that. She's very aware of that now. And like, we thought that I guess she thought that she needed that from my parents all along. But like she said, like, that was never ever going to change. And the crazy thing, like, when I talk to my parents now about our relationship, like, they tell me too, which is like wild, but they know, they're like, Sophia, believe it or not, like, we love Jasmine. We do. Like, we love her as a person. And I know that because they've seen her with me for 10 years now. And they do love her for who she is, I think, as a person. And she's close to every single one of my siblings, but they will never accept her as my partner. And those are just two different things.
Can I add something to that real quick too?
Yeah, go ahead.
I always felt like I was treated differently, regardless of what they said. And even if they said they loved me, I always felt like I was being treated differently.
So just clarifying that them doing that, though, isn't because we don't like Jasmine. It is so hard for them to ever see past the fact that you are a woman and you are my partner. And it won't ever sit well with them in their hearts. So it's hard for them. They admit it, to want to build that kind of relationship, to try. It just doesn't come from them naturally. Like, they have to try really, 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 really hard to even do, I think, the bare minimum. Just to clarify.
Obviously, we have so much to unpack. But I do appreciate you guys sharing this with all of us, because this is very personal, you know, something that no one probably knows that y'all went through, which brings me to my point. They've been together for 10 years, and you would think that their relationship has probably been perfect, but honestly, no relationship is perfect. But let's get down to the good stuff, the healing. You guys mentioned therapy. I'm so glad to see how much you guys have blossomed. I personally have seen the growth in both of you, personally and professionally. And it's inspiring because from day one, you guys, from day one, it was clear how much these two loved each other. Jasmine and Sophia were head over heels for each other. Okay, Jasmine made me come with them on their first few dates. In Jasmine's head, they were dates, but in Sophia's head, they were friend dates, maybe?
Friend date.
So it's just been amazing to see them and their growth as a couple and individually. All right, so moving on. Let's get to the good stuff. You both mentioned that you're doing therapy. I love that, especially as a future therapist. I truly believe in therapy. And I respect if you don't believe in it. I get it. Everyone to each their own, right? But clearly therapy has done wonders for both of you. Couples therapy at that. Well, tell us a little bit about that. What made you both realize you guys had to start healing and have to start going to couples therapy?
Like, where I felt like, okay, we have to make changes and we have to actually get better at our communication, the way how we speak to each other sometimes when we're upset, all of like healing, finally really, really healing from everything. I'm going to say, I think it was when we were at the apartment in the city on California Street. That was the beginning of when I felt like I was like, okay, Jasmine, if you really want to have a healthy relationship, what can I do to really start making some changes, like to be able to have that with her, the more healthy communication, you know, everything else. That was when I started to really want to change a lot, because I think that there was a lot of things that I had needed to improve about myself. That was during the time when COVID happened. That was during the time that Gatsby came into the picture. That was during the time that Sophia was like, shit, like, you know, this COVID's hitting. I might be out of a job, but I might have an opportunity of being able to do my own thing. That was when things were starting to happen. And even before all that started to happen, my mind was kind of shifting in the place where I said, I want a better, healthier relationship. I mean, I think everyone should want that in their relationship. Even if it's good right now, I feel like there's always room for improvement to be better. So I think like we were okay But I was like, no, I'm not satisfied. I think we could do more. I think we could be better. I think we could be more to each other. So I think just by making a choice, a personal choice, that's when things started to happen slowly. Like Gatsby came into the picture, and then Sophia had to figure out and scramble about like opening up her own business and like us moving. Honestly, that's when I started to feel it. Like it's our time. Like this is where we actually got to be better for ourselves.
Yes.
That was just for me. Like I don't know when you felt the click, but like that click for me was like, I want to. Okay, we need to do this.
So this is. I agree with you because
like for me, like my whole like insecurities, like me being really like constantly on edge about anything that has to do with like your parents and your family. I think that's when it starts to be like, I need to let go of a lot of stuff
because things were always getting gradually better, slowly. Because the pandemic was like 5 years into our relationship. Those 5 years weren't all like always bad. We moved every single year to a new apartment, to a new apartment, to a new apartment, to a new apartment. Every single time, just like a little bit bigger than the time before. So we were always moving, and there was like new challenges. I felt like every single year we moved, there was a new chapter. Now, when we moved into our last one in SF is when the pandemic hit. So I was at home because I was always working all the time too, outside of the house, because I was always teaching classes full time. I was always exhausted, but I was still like barely getting by. I was driving Uber, I was driving Lyft. Like I was just doing whatever I could to do my part to make money, but it was never, ever enough. And Jasmine was working all the time also. So what I think we were doing was we were constantly in a state of distraction. We weren't really facing our shit. We weren't actually looking at what is really wrong here. We were just used to highs and lows, chaos, and then being okay with things slightly getting better, and then a little bit better, and then a little bit better, because we were making life upgrades and we were just trying to, improve overall, but we never really had to face our shit. Mm-hmm. And then pandemic happened, and then I was home 24/7, and we had a dog to raise, and then I was out of a job. After that, going back to work changed. That's when it closed, and that's when I was like, oh my God, am I going to do this on my own? Am I going to start my own business? Like, I wasn't really sure. So for me, separately from her, for me, it was like, if I take this opportunity, if I'm going to take a chance on myself and start my own business and open up my own studio and play in this new territory that I am super, super unfamiliar with, I know that I cannot have a personal, chaotic life. My at-home life can't be uncertain. It can't be like too many highs and lows, because there's no way I'll be able to focus. I'll be able to be my best self. And my work is leading classes, motivating people. I am helping people. I am constantly around people. And I had many, many, many times where I could fake it. I was in the bathroom crying my eyes out for whatever reason, whether it was a fight between us or some bullshit with my parents, like, or I would cry in the bathroom. And then I would leave, turn the microphone on, and like be a coach in, a class. And I couldn't do that anymore. And I knew that I couldn't be doing that anymore. So one pivoting part of a relationship got really hard, literally just last year, is things were just kind of like resurfacing. What me and Jasmine do very, very well, and we have done very well, is brush things under the rug. We kind of just let things go. We just moved on. We would fight. There was a lot of issues, but we just never faced them. So we just brush things under the rug and pretend they never happened. We forgive and we move on, and we would just keep living life, and things would be fine. Our relationship was fine. But when things started to resurface, especially like challenges that had to do with family and parents and things that we fought about 8 years ago, that was literally like last year. And that's when we were like, we're only going to make it and we're only going to survive if we go to fucking therapy. Because there's no way we're still fighting the same battles 8 years later, because we brushed it under the rug for so long.
You guys brought up so many good points. So it sounds like therapy definitely helped you. But the main reason why you guys started couples therapy was because you realized there was a lot of things resurfacing from years past that came up. And that brings a good point, because a lot of times in relationships, I feel like people will shrug things under the rug and they won't close the loop. I don't know how many times I say that. Yeah. And that is so important to close the loop, because when you don't, clearly things like this happen. They resurface. And it can literally be a fight from 8 years ago. And one day something triggers you and you'll go off. So it's so important. Please have the hard conversations with each other.
Yeah.
Talk to each other and close that loop.
Yeah. So that was when the decision to go to couples therapy was made. That there were a lot of hard conversations that we clearly needed to have, but we knew that we weren't going to be able to have them alone. Because all of a sudden, like, we started arguing about a lot of different things again. And we were like, this isn't us anymore. Like, what's happening? Why are things getting hard all over again over the same things that we thought we had already improved on? And it was a hard reality check. And we kept going, like, it was hard for us to see eye to eye. It was hard for us to communicate. Our communication styles are very, very similar but different. So we weren't making progress. We weren't getting anywhere. Things weren't actually progressing when we tried to, like, figure them out on our own. So we were like, we've been together 9 fucking years. We know we're each other's person. We know we want to get married one day. Like, we know that that's on the table. But if we can't fix these problems, like, how the hell is that going to happen? So we're like, we just need somebody, a professional, for us to talk in front of so that she could tell us what the fuck we're doing wrong and teach us how to talk to each other, teach us what are we actually doing, what expectations we're putting on each other that we have to fulfill ourselves. Think about it. After being together for 9 years, going to therapy now, and all the shit that we've dealt with, that we've experienced in our relationship, it has been life-changing. Life-changing. Do I wish we did this earlier? Absolutely. But honestly, things are happening the way that they're meant to. But we're unpacking a lot of things from 9 years.
Our therapist is really, like, amazing. So I really like her.
Shout out to their therapist.
But yeah, everything that she's saying is spot on. Like, honestly, like, having a therapist really does put a lot in perspective. I love how she sees both of our sides, and, she asks the right questions, and some questions that she asks, I'm just like, oh, I didn't think about it like that, So
she makes you think.
She makes me think, and she'll challenge me a little bit, and I love that because, that is, you need someone to just kind of say, hey, like, you sound crazy. It's like, okay, you're very, I just needed to hear that. Thank you,
Yeah.
And,
but sometimes it's also hard to take that in. Like, when someone's challenging.
I mean, I've been
like, no. When you're hard-headed and you got...
There's been situations where I've, right at the end, I just walk out. I just want to leave. But I understand at the aftermath is I sit there with my thoughts and I realize and I look back and, just like being able to learn how to process what it is that I'm feeling now, regulate my own emotions. It's just, there's a lot that I'm happy to do now because it actually is helping me.
And I just want to say, I love that both of you were collectively like, all right, we need couples therapy to just better our relationship in general. And if we want to make it to marriage, like, this is a must, right? But then you mentioned, Jasmine, that you, in 2019, when the pandemic happened, that's when for you were like, all right, I need to start working on myself. Like, it was a big smack in the face for you, and where you need to grow as a person, right? And for you, Sophia, it was getting the opportunity to start your business. Like, you knew, if I'm going to show up for my clients, if I'm going to show up in this business, I have to show fully and powerfully. And that's what forced you to really do the work for yourself, right? And this is to tell you guys, the reason why I talk about self-love so much is because you truly need self-love for everything, because it all starts with loving yourself and showing up powerfully. Because when you love yourself and you have a secure attachment with yourself, you're able to show up for the people around you. Self-love is very important, and doing couples therapy has obviously helped you both. You guys are really blossoming. I see it. So I do want to ask, how can couples differentiate between a relationship worth saving versus one that's beyond repair?
This is a good question because we can speak from experience, right? Looking back now, there were many times where Sophia should have walked away and should have said enough is enough because she put up with a lot. And I was used to someone saying enough is enough and walk away. Like I said, I've never had one single healthy relationship in my entire life. It didn't feel like it was possible, and it felt completely out of reach. So I was used to the women, before her easily would say, this is fucking crazy. Like, I'm not dealing with your shit. And I do want to say, because if one day this podcast lands in one of their fucking feeds, I hope you are doing amazing. And I hope that you didn't deserve what you went through with me. And I hope that you are just thriving. From the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry, because I didn't realize that I was very toxic and I was the problem. And looking back, I'm very embarrassed with my behavior. Obviously, I was young and I didn't know a lot. But anyways, with Sophia, I was still, again, learning a lot. And I was also going through in my life when I met Sophia. And this is the only way I can describe it. Okay, I was very addicted to the chaos. And it's kind of similar to an addict. An addict is addicted to something that they're familiar with and they're comfortable with. I was very comfortable and familiar with toxicity in my life and chaos. So when I met Sophia, she approached me with love, kindness, patience, just everything healthy. And I wasn't really used to that. So in the midst of us wanting to have a relationship, I was like, this is weird. I'm not familiar with peace in my life. And so I was doing things that would self-sabotage and ruin our relationship from time to time, and really just dismantled trust and the foundation in general. So when I was forcing this idea of I can have a healthy relationship, it was like an addict going through withdrawals a lot. And I'm like, no, like, this is not normal. This is not normal. So what would I do? I'd go ahead and become toxic and start arguing and start fighting and just self-sabotaging all over again. And it was a fucking cycle and it was fucking tiring. So I was literally living through this entire cycle and I was suffering so fucking much. But in the midst of me suffering, Sophia was suffering. So we were both just suffering together. So Sophia should have left a long time ago and said, I'm out. But she's a very understanding person. And I think that comes from, her upbringing, like her big family, church, everything. Going to the question, I think it really boils down to one thing. If every day you are fighting for dear life, trying to keep something together that just keeps falling apart for you, that is the number one indicator that you should remove yourself from that situation, 100%. And also another indicator is if you're constantly seeing the sides of you coming out that you don't like, whether if that's you getting angry, getting insecure, getting jealous, constantly checking on someone's phone or constantly checking their location or constantly asking questioning what their actions are, that's another indicator that is not a good relationship to be in. I think another big indicator is, do you feel the need to have to get physical with them? And I mean, shoving and pushing and needing to run away from them or whatever the case is. That's another indicator that you are in the wrong relationship. So there's so many indicators I can point down, but I think ultimately I want to say that women in general are taught that you got to stand by the person you're with, right? Especially Latino women. You got to stand by the person you're with and don't give up on them. But I will say this cycle where women who force themselves to stay with their man or woman who they just don't make the effort to respect them and change to have a healthy relationship. It's not that you're giving up by walking away. It's not that you're giving up on them. I just want to say that you staying, you're giving up on you, because you're basically saying you're not worth it and you don't love yourself. So I just want to say that because I from experience and just seeing so many women, you have a choice every single day. And either you're going to choose yourself or you're going to choose staying in the relationship and suffer.
But like, I was also on the other end of that, right? And the question almost is like, Sophia, like, why didn't you leave then? Like, how did you know if that was like, what made you stay, right? And how are you here now then?
Yeah.
Because a lot of that was what our relationship was like. Like, not everything, but like a lot of it. And should love be enough? And is love enough? And I convinced myself of that. I convinced myself that I fucking love her. And even though I understand why maybe she's acting the way she's acting or saying the things she's saying or doing the things she's doing, like, I understand though, and I love her, and there's so much potential here. That's what I convinced myself of. Like, honestly, the first half of our relationship,
Potential.
I saw a lot of sides of me that I didn't know existed that were brought out because of the situations that we were constantly in, the constantly having to defend myself, because I had to defend myself like with my parents all the time, you know, being accused or like of a million different things. And that almost felt like familiar, I guess. So I didn't realize that wasn't normal or healthy. I just kept trying to advise Jasmine. I was almost trying to be the fixer. I kept trying to say, like, there's hope here though. She will change. Like, things will be better. They will be better. They will get better. We tried so many things. Even like self-hypnosis. I'm like, I found this thing. We can listen to this on the phone. We can both like get hypnotized in the car or in bed, and your subconscious will get reprogrammed to believe different things. You know, like I was desperate because
you're a real one.
Because I wanted to hold on so tight to my own detriment. Yeah. Did I see it at the time? Of course I saw the signs. Of course I felt the need to leave many, many, many times, but I didn't have the strength to. I didn't. And honestly, living together shouldn't be an excuse to stay together. Mm-hmm. But my pride was not about to walk my ass back to my parents' house. I was like, where the fuck are we going to go with that? Like, you know, like, I didn't know what that would have looked like. And it was just really scary. It was too scary to leave because, no, let's be honest. Jasmine would break up with me all the time. She would be like, this is done. It's over. Like, fuck this. Like, I'm not dealing with this bullshit.
Toxicity. That was all part of the toxicity. That was all part of me going through the withdrawals, right? Of like, oh, I only know chaos. I only know, you know, so that was me. I was literally always constantly breaking up, wanting to just leave and run away. Like, that's all I knew what to do.
And I wouldn't let that happen. And if I did, imagine if I was like, okay, fine then. I'm like, actually, let it be. Like a normal person, sure. Like, I don't even know what the hell I'd be doing right. Like, we literally wouldn't be together right now. Yeah. So was I also like in the wrong in some ways? I mean, in many ways in our relationship, absolutely. Like, it brought really ugly sides out of me that, again, like, they aren't me. But I stayed because I just really fucking love Jasmine, and I really wanted to see the other side of what this was and like what could be, and held on to that for a really, 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 really long time because I was so happy when I was happy, but I was so sad when I was sad is the thing. And I didn't love myself enough to nurture that part of me, but I got there eventually by saying, this is what I can do for me, and I'm going to stop trying to make her do all these things that she didn't want to, because you cannot change anybody. You cannot change anybody. You cannot fix anybody. They have to come to it themselves. So our relationship got to a point where it was just fine. Mm-hmm. So we were just okay with getting by. But then she got to that point herself also, where she was like, I do need this change.
So I was like, do you feel like when you just stopped pushing her and you pulled away, that it gave her the space to be like, okay, I've been acting this way, I should probably like start?
Kind of, I don't know. I mean, that's more for you to answer.
But I want to make sure that you're answering what she asked. So how do other couples, can they differentiate? Like, that's okay. I can.
Okay. Cool. You answered a lot of that.
Yeah. So I think for me, like, her pulling away, I think it was exactly what she said earlier. It was during the pandemic, right? We were forced to really look within ourselves. We had more time on our hands. No one likes time on our hands because that forces you to sit alone with your demons and talk to them. And that's what happened to me. I was working a lot, but at the same time, it felt like the world went silent and we weren't distracted with the other activities that we usually would do. We go out, go drink. And we were drinking a lot before that. We were drinking a lot. Yeah.
Alcohol, another thing we're going to talk about in a different podcast episode.
And anyways, so yeah, I think during the pandemic was when I was actually like, I had opportunities, so many opportunities to sit alone with my shadows and kind of just figure out like, why am I still being triggered by so many things in my life right now, right? And these things aren't serving me and they're holding me back completely. So I think during that time was when it didn't matter. She could have told me 20 times a day, go seek help, go do this. That wasn't going to help. It was being left alone and me being able to process a lot of things on my own. That was when I was, really thinking. And I was like, you know what? Should actually talk to someone. And I did. I had my own therapist. I found her, but she was amazing. I didn't stick with her because she was pretty expensive. But for the most part, just being able to kind of talk to her the first handful of sessions with her, and that was it.
Okay, so it came to my mind. It's hard to really know when you should stay or leave in the relationship that you're in. And what I've learned as a therapist is you have to give people the space to make their own decisions on whether they think that it's good for them or not. So we're not here to tell you whether you should stay in your relationship or not, save your relationship or not, but just ask yourself, is your partner willing to do the work? Does your partner want to do the work? You can see so much potential in someone, but sometimes they don't see it in themselves. The beautiful thing here is you saw potential in her. You had so much love for each other, and that's what kept this relationship alive and going. And I'm so glad that you did, because look at Jasmine now, a completely different person. I'm like, both of y'all have grown tremendously. I'm just happy for y'all. So let's start closing it out. One last question that you guys can answer. What advice would you give to couples who feel stuck in unhealthy patterns but still love each other?
Cliche, but it's like, I think just get extra support, like get that extra help, because the unhealthy patterns that we had, like we genuinely didn't know how to communicate better. I didn't know what I was doing wrong in our communication. She didn't know what she was doing wrong. It took an outside perspective to help me understand why I speak the way I do, or the reason why it's hard for me to try to validate her versus offer other perspectives. Like, and it was hard for her to deliver things differently and actually understand what she's really trying to say and and what she really feels, so that I understood that. We wouldn't have gotten there without help.
Yeah.
And we're still not there. We still have a lot of things. We do life differently in a lot of ways. And I think that it's important to know that that's okay, that you don't have to see eye to eye on everything. You don't have to have the same opinions on everything. You don't have to agree on everything. You can do life differently in harmony and with peace. And we just didn't actually understand what the hell that looked like in a healthy way. Like, I'm allowed to have my own opinion. She's allowed to have her own opinions. I don't have to change her mind. She doesn't have to change my mind. We just have to respect each other and know how to still keep harmony and peace. The way I can describe our relationship now compared to before is there's actual fucking peace. And there's compassion, there's understanding. And like, I would you cannot put a price on that in a relationship, because that was the opposite of what we always had.
So my advice, these are going to be two different advices for depending on your situation. If you've been with someone for a very long time, right, and you find yourself and that other person having very unhealthy patterns, you guys are in a stale place in your life, I will say that therapy, 100%. If you haven't done it, I 100% will give advice that you need therapy. And it's not going to work if it's just one person wanting it and the other person's like, hell no, I'm not going to go tell a stranger my problems. Then it's not going to go well. So one is the other person has to put in that effort and wanting change, just like you want change. Also, please understand this. And this is something that I learned in therapy. When you are doing the work, it's going to take time, because what's going to happen is all of a sudden, one of you is going to kind of move a little faster in the evolvement part, of finding yourself becoming a new version. Because now you're understanding, oh, healthy communication. Oh, I'm seeing the world differently. Here's what's going to happen. Okay. I'm setting you up right now. So please take notes. What's going to happen is one of you is going to evolve a little bit quicker and the other one is getting there, but not all the way. There's still an obstacle. Well, I'm going to tell you. The problem is that the other person, they're still seeing the old version of you. And that is okay. It's going to take time. So when you both are communicating, it's not, and even though one of you is like, well, I don't understand. Like, I'm trying really hard here to better myself and you're still treating me the way that, you are. It's because it's going to take time. But if you are that person, then you know that you are starting to revolve. Just remind that person across from you in the table and say, hey, listen, I know that you're speaking to me as if it's the old version of me, but this is a new version. So you got to keep reminding them. And then that person's going to actually start catching on and saying, oh, okay, I also have to evolve. Now I also have to understand that I'm also growing. So that's just something for you to know. Second thing is, if you are in a shorter relationship, let's say it's like you guys are just starting off, you guys are just in it for like the first few years, still fresh, is that if it's already getting pretty bad, then, yes, therapy can be an option, but I think it's going to be more on what effort is the other person making. If they're willing to make even small, could be small things, but if they're not putting effort, and you know that therapy is not going to be an option, then the best advice that I can tell you is you need to get real with yourself, look within, because the answer is always going to be within you. It's not going to be coming from your parents, your friends, your best friend. You got to really make that decision on your own. And best advice is move on. Don't waste your time. Because if you're staying for someone's potential, I do not advise. That's why I hate the word potential. And I hate when people say, oh my God, they have so much potential though, because it doesn't matter. That's something that you see in the future, and the future doesn't exist. What exists is right now, right here. And if they're not making the effort right now, right here to really show you that they are worth it, then you need to cut it off. You need to move on. Because I'm going to tell you something. You're going to be all right, sweetie. You're going to be all right. Like, you will be all right without him.
Before you close things off,
go for it.
Is, first of all, it's funny because, like, right, I didn't take any of that advice, but that's why we're here. But this isn't the example of,
for y'all.
It's a different journey.
And I'm pretty sure if she didn't change, you would have probably been out by now. Let's be real.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I guess so. But also, what she was referring to, like the one person is evolving, right? And this has been a bit of a challenge for us. I've been used to 9 years of a certain reaction, thought process, way to situations are handled. Like, I'm used to it. It's ingrained in me. So now when I get the reaction I actually want, or the perspective that, like, a healthier way of handling things, sometimes I don't realize that I am not noticing or I'm not seeing that. And I'm still operating from this place of where I'm used to operating from. And I'm not even giving her that chance to, like, show me that, wait, no, I can be different. I can be better. She has patience with me also in that sense of reminding me, like, Sophia, like, you don't have to be worried. You don't have to be afraid to express what you want to say. Like, just go for it. Because there's things in me that I'm just like, but I don't know, like, how it's going to go. Like, what if it doesn't go down well? So she has gentle reminders to me to be like, it's okay. Like, that's how the old me would have reacted. But listen, that's not me anymore. So you got to give me that chance too. It can be frustrating for her and for me, but it's nice to have that, to, like, give that person reminders like, hey, you don't got to, like, worry anymore.
That's just me, like, advising the folks that will start the work. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to get to that place of getting therapy. And that's amazing and that's great. But it's just like a reminder that therapy isn't going to solve all your problems, and it's not going to change everything overnight. It's just going to help you build a new foundation now with your partner. And it's going to be a long journey.
I appreciate you guys sharing that, because that is not easy to share. So in closing, normally I do a Q&A that someone has sent to me in advance, but I think we have a lot of good questions that were answered today. So I just want to close it off in saying that you mentioned you can go to therapy and you can get all these tools and resources, but it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of unlearning, and a lot of learning new things, unlearning habits that you have. And like you mentioned, 9 years of this version of Jasmine that you knew. And sometimes it can be hard because it's like that's what you have in your head.
Yeah.
And so what I love, though, is how patient you are and reminding her, giving her that gentle reminder, like, hey, babe, I'm not that person anymore. So something that couples can take away is to be patient with each other. And it's okay to be wrong sometimes. Put your ego to the side. And if you catch yourself in an argument or you say something that you weren't supposed to, just say it out loud. Just say, fuck, babe, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to say that. It's just a habit. I'm so sorry. Very easy. And then shift the conversation. And I say this because it's not easy. You can be so self-aware of the things you've been doing wrong, the way you've been communicating wrong. But when you're in the heat of the moment, you're not thinking about what you learned in therapy. You're not. So what I can tell you is if you catch yourself in the middle of that argument, say it out loud to your partner. Be vulnerable with them and say, I'm so sorry I called you out your name. I'm so sorry I'm yelling at you. Give me 5 seconds. Let me take a breather. And then you go back into the conversation. Healing is not linear. This is a process, but if you're willing to do the work, I promise you, you will get to where you want to be. So I just want to say thank you both for being on this episode. It was so nice to be able to conversate with you both and hear each of your perspective of your relationship. I'm so happy to hear you guys' relationship, and because honestly, you guys are doing phenomenal. And so stay tuned for the next episode that will be dropping March 3rd. All right?
March 3rd.
March 3rd.
Mark your motherfucking calendars.
Know your business and where they can find you.
Okay, so I opened my own studio. It's called Westcore Studio. So on Instagram, you can look up at Westcore Studio. And that's my business. It's a strength training megaformer studio. So high intensity, low impact classes that people confuse with Pilates, but it's not. But let's just put it under the same umbrella.
If you want to follow me and just follow my crazy life, my Instagram is at JAE_COCA on Instagram. I do a lot of different things. So the only way I can describe it is I'm always doing side quests. So if you want to be a part of that, just follow me.
She's always up to something.
I'm always up to something. And I love
learning them all.
You can also follow my YouTube channel. I was supposed to be active, and then I kind of took a little time off after the election. So go ahead, you can follow me. I do plan on coming back soon. So same thing, JAECOCA, J-Coca. Thank you. If you made it all the way through, I hope we didn't scare you.
God bless your soul. Well, bye.